So welcome to the CDR and Databricks interactive session. To view previous training sessions or upcoming training events, I will be sharing both of these links in the chat in a few moments. In the meantime, let's go ahead and move on to our administrative announcements. So this session is meant to be collaborative. We're going to use the Zoom breakout rooms throughout the session. I will open those here shortly after Katie kicks off the call. And we're going to have a DNA team member in each room to assist you all. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them verbally or just raise your hand in the Zoom features below. And if you're having any trouble joining any breakout room, just write us a message or feel free to unmute yourself and maybe let us know what's going on. And then portions of this call will be recorded and we'll make it available in the CCSQ DNA portal. Just give us a few more days to turn those around. And as always, we will administer a survey at the end of the call to see what you thought of today's session and get your feedback. So make sure to take that. And with that said, I'll go ahead and stop and hand it over to Katie.
Hello, I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Can you all see my screen? I'm also going to share the notebook link. All right. So welcome to our interactive session about how to run jobs in Databricks. I sent you a link to this, what I have open here. There are two notebooks, and I recommend, this is part of exercise 1, and basically it is exercise 1, is cloning this. So if you're, you should be able to click up here or click both of these, and I recommend that you clone them to your own user folder or something like that. So you can go to Browse, For You, go to your name. The little plus will let you create a folder if you're like me and you have a lot of things in there, because I would never find these if I save them here. Anyway, so then you would click clone and that would get you those notebooks. But I'm going to use, so notebook 2 is the one I'm going to present to you from. So I have this open here, but this also is part of the exercise for you to use this notebook and the other one. And the other one has a lot of notes in it, so that's why I have it separate. And it's also sets things that will get read into task 2, which is this one that we're looking at. So I have the thing that I really want you to be able to take away from today is if you run a job, you can run one notebook. And if you feel comfortable setting up a job like that, then that's great. And I think that's all that many of our users really need to do is just run like one notebook. But you can run multiple things. You can do other things. I'm going to show you a lot of the different options. And if you missed the lunch and learn, or if you have no idea how to set up a job, that's okay. Don't worry. You should be able to set up because if you scroll down, I have lots of stuff for you to read, but I called out this one link that is how to set up the job. So this is one of our KB, one of our knowledge base articles that I've shared a lot because people are interested in how do I set up a job? What do I need to do? This has everything in here that you will need to know how to set up the job. And then I'm going to talk about a lot of the other features. So this is an interactive session. There will be probably 2 breakout rooms, one for anybody who might come late and need a little help getting set up with the exercises. And then I'll have another breakout room. You can feel free to stay in this main room if you wanted to just ask questions in here. That's totally fine. You can come off mute and ask questions at any point. And you can go in the breakout room if you feel more comfortable with or that it would be easier to just have that like smaller group or just you and one other person, because sometimes it is just ends up being like a one-on-one. So let me ask a quick question. If you don't mind using those reactions in your toolbar at the bottom to let me know if you're very new to jobs, let's get this party started. Use the little party popper emoji. If you've created a job before, like do a thumbs up. If you feel comfortable, give it a heart, Okay, so I see some party poppers that it's new. So we're going to get this party started. Thanks for helping me with that. Oops, sorry. I'm zooming out so that I can have a reasonable thing here. Okay, so I've got some definitions here. I just wanted to touch on one thing. Workflows, you might hear them used synonymously with job, but they're technically different. Like a workflow, if there's workflow and then smaller is a job, and then smaller you have tasks. So the a workflow can be used to describe a job, but there's also other things that fit under that category. And feel free to read those things. I've got some other resources. And then for the exercises, the one thing I wanted you to know, you can click workflows to get to create a job, which you'll see in the instructions in that one link. And then there's also this direct link. You can just open it to get to your jobs. And it might take it a second. So then you'll see a screen kind of like this, you create, and then, just follow the instructions. If you don't know how to do it, that's okay. Oh, and I think there were like one or two people who might have popped in. So I'm gonna just do that just in case, put in the chat. So for these exercises, I say to do something and then run and do something and then run. I recommend you do that later. And for today's, just try to set up the things one at a time. And then if you want at the end to run it, the best thing would be if you get an error and then you can ask about it right away. But if there might not be time for it, because sometimes it can take 5 or 10 minutes for the job cluster to spin up. So I recommend that you do each exercise one at a time to at least get familiar with the user interface for the job. And I'll leave it at that so you can ask questions and we can talk some more. But I want to let you get started. I want to give you at least half an hour. So I think at 12:40 we'll stop, and then I will run through the exercises and show you all the things and talk about each piece of setting up a job and all the different options you have. And in setting up a job. But one more thing that I did want to point out is I make a distinction between a task something that you set up for a task and something that you set up for the job. Because if you have just one notebook, it's not going to make a difference and you wouldn't notice it and it wouldn't, but if you set up more than one task, so if you have one notebook run and then that succeeds and then another notebook runs, if you have things set up for each task that that's different than having something set up for the job, which is this panel kind of over to the right. You have all these different, schedules and triggers, the job parameters, which I'll talk a little bit about. Notifications are the one that you may care about the most in this thing over here. Is if you set up a notification for a task, that's different than for the job. But if you just have one notebook that you're running in a job, you're not gonna notice difference. Okay, so please go ahead and feel free to dig into the exercises, kind of do them all in one job. You can edit the things on the sides and in the task that you can do. So one task or whatever. So do it all as one job so that you have time to run into problems and ask questions. Okay, go ahead, and then at 12:40 I'll start going through the solution notebook.
All right, I'll go ahead and open the breakout rooms. There are two. One is if you arrived late and want us to run through the exercises with you again. And the second one is for general questions that you want one of the team members to walk you through. So I'll open those right now. If you're having any issues going into a breakout room, just let us know.
Sorry about that, Laura.
No, you're good. Thanks, Katie.
Yeah, so this is an just for the recording. I shared a link to this example code, and I have this. It's actually in my user folder, and it is shareable with anybody who has access to our Databricks environment. So you guys should all be able to see this, and I'm going to leave it there probably forever. But this example code, this works. The commented out part will submit a job and get the run ID for the job. But I have one of my jobs, I just got the run ID from here. So if you go into your thing, you go into the task, you go into the job, you get the job run ID, and each task has its own ID. You can loop through the tasks to get the notebooks, but I don't think I'm looping through them in this code. But you can, and then it will give you this big thing. And if you use this code down here to save as HTML and write out an HTML file for each task, you should be able to do do what you want to do to be able to get multiple HTML outputs to save, and you can save them to you should be able to save them to your S3 if you run code like this from, however you're kicking off your jobs and stuff. And if I'm sure we could do like a lunch and learn on just this thing. But I did want to go through the exercise. And I want to show you first real quick what the exercises kind of look like. And I think I messed with this one a little bit. So I'm going to click on this. They're just, I ran the same things. And I wanted to kind of show, because these were loading very slowly, all the different pieces. So if you run jobs over and over, you get to see all the different runs. They save for about, I think, 60 days. And then, 60-day-old ones down here will start disappearing. You click on the run, and you can see all your tasks, and you can see like this. And they'll show you a graph. You can also see it in these other forms, but the graph is nice. And you click on your task, and it will show you the output for your notebook, which is very nice. And I popped out the solution notebook. So this one is in my user space, and I wanted to scroll down to past the exercises where, oh, sorry, I already populated and forgot to delete it. But if you put something in here, you can see this run, if you run this notebook, and then this will get the this dbutils.jobs.taskvalues.get gets the password from task one. And that's why it's important to name your task, whatever, know what your task is named, so that you can enter it in this task key. And I named it task one exactly like this. And then something from there is the password is Mr. Bean. And then it'll just say Mr. Bean in the output. So to set up the job, task name, task one, and you want to give it some, oop, I don't want that. Oh my gosh. Okay, but you're able to give it a name. And the type, most of the time notebook, but as you see, there's all these different ones. We talked about this for each, where you can do some kind of looping. There's also if else, so you can do a lot of very specific things with these tasks. But I think most people are using them to run notebooks, and they can come from the workspace. If you do have some kind of Git provider, you can link it to a job, so it will read from there. So if you update code and keep it version controlled, you can put a token in your settings and to your Get provider, but you can also do from the workspace. And then path, mine, I will point to the one in my presentations folder. And then we're just got task 1 and confirm. So you just click through to select. And you can change the different things about your cluster. You want to make sure that for you guys, you got to make sure you select a cluster policy. And I mean, all of us need to make sure we select a cluster policy. We can change the Databricks runtime. You can change this. You should be able to change the size a little bit with your cluster policy. And then you can tag to just tag it with something so you can find it later. And then you can also tag your job here, but not before you save. The dependent libraries, you can add libraries to your cluster like you do with the personal clusters. The same menu pops up, so you can get stuff from Maven if you're doing the Sarfong. You can search that in Spark packages. SAS7BDAT will pop up this first one. And I can add it. I'm not doing anything with it in here, but then parameters, there's this. You can do it with the UI. You can also do JSON. That's why there's this huge gap. And so it's kind of confusing, but you have the key, karmic param. Maybe I'm interested in Kia. And then add the, there's another one, but I actually am passing it as a task value. So the one thing about the parameters is you can add, I'm adding this in the task, and you can play around with this if you have time. Oh, and then it is to put a parameter here and then put a different parameter here. And then you see that the job parameter overwrites the task one. But I wanted to also show you notifications. You have to select a destination. I'm not sure if everybody has access to put things in Slack, but if your team has a special like Slack channel for some project and you need to know that some process ran, you may be able to select Slack. So start, you can get a notification when, and then remember, this is just for the task, when it starts, when it succeeds, if it fails. Duration warning, we can't select that one right now. And there's, if I mute notifications for canceled runs, because I am the one who canceled it, I know that, and it's just my job, so I'll do that. Metric thresholds, you can select different things for the other one was the streaming. This run duration is one. If it takes 10 minutes, I want to get an email. If it takes 15 minutes, I want it to time out because it took too long. You could either save and leave it, or you could save and edit notifications. So now I can select duration warning. So whenever it hits 10 minutes, it's going to warn me. So because I set that warning there, and that's just for this task. I'm going to create task. And then I have that one, and I can run this and it will work fine. It will run this notebook. But let's say I have another notebook I want to add. You can also add a PI file or I think a .SQL. You can add all kinds of stuff. So task name, I'll call it, task 2, type notebook, source from the workspace, the path, it should pop up the same folder. And I'm going to select task 2. And then you can, it already told me it depends on task 1, but I could say, no, I don't want that. I want them to run at the same time. So I could delete that and it would look like this. Oops, sorry. And it would have task 1 and task 2, they would run at the same time. But I'm going to say I want it to depend on task 1. And I want it to only run if they, any prior thing dependency succeeds. You could have it if only one, or if, certain things. And then parameters, you could add a parameter or not. You could add notification for this task and the threshold. If this task runs for more than 2 minutes, cancel it, create task. And then over here, if I want to add a tag for my job, find this job again. You can put your name. So I can put my name. There are certain things you can do in Databricks where it will put your name automatically in a tag. You can add a description so you and your team know what it is. You can add Git settings for the job if you're doing a Git provider source for your notebook. You can add a trigger scheduled every 1 day, every 1 week, every hour. You can have it a certain time if you select advanced, and it'll set up basically a cron job, but you don't have to know the syntax. You can just tell it every day at 12:53. And then, so these job parameters, you can add them, and then it will override the task parameter. And then job notifications, it's the same as the task notification, but if you want to know about the job itself, which may be more what you're interested in, start, success, failure, and then the same thing with the duration warning where you have to set those thresholds for it, add metric thresholds, select that run duration, and then you can save and edit notifications. And, then select duration warning. And then for permissions, you can only have one owner, but if you have other teammates who are working on a project with you, you can have them, if they can manage the run. If it's something that you guys work on together, you all need, have a backup person who can manage it, and then have multiple people who can view or who can manage, you can do certain things to change permissions on it. And then you add your name. Let's say I got my coworker on my team and I want to say he can do this. And then I can add and then save. And so that's a lot of the different things that you can do. And that covered all of the different things that in the exercises. Exercise 1 was just set up a single notebook run. Exercise 2, make sure that you have that task 1 as the job, add the schedule, add the alerts. You can add the second task, and you saw there were lots of options for all the different things you can add. Parameters. Oh, and then the output as HTML, we kind of covered that in the beginning. And then that task values to pass things from one to another. And I hope you find that this is helpful, this notebook here with these links. And this is that link. Example code to programmatically export a job run is here that can hopefully at least get started. And hopefully we will add a little more to share with you so that to kind of clean that up. But I wanted to figure that out and then share it with everybody, because I know people are interested in that. And I always like to know how to do things programmatically. I don't like pointing and clicking. So I hope this was helpful. There's going to be another interactive session on this, and it's going to be the same content. But if you wanted to come and you had other questions, feel free to do that. And I'm going to give it back to Laura so she can do the survey. So please, let us know if there's other things you want to do or want us to take them seriously. So thank you for joining us today.
Great. Thank you so much, Katie. All right, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and launch this survey. You should see it pop up on your screen right about now. It's only 4 questions. If you have any questions that got unanswered or you just thought of right now, go ahead and put those in that survey. You will see that last question where you can post your question there. Or if you have any suggestions for the DNA team for future training topics that you feel like are not in the portal for you or you haven't seen covered, feel free to suggest those as well. And obviously let us know how we did today and how we can improve. Once you've taken that survey, you are more than welcome to drop And again, as Katie mentioned, we do offer more interactive sessions. There will be one, I believe, next week, if I'm not wrong. And the invite for that or the link to register will go out sometime today. So just keep an eye out for that. And if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the SOS channel, or if you want to collaborate with other team members, drop your questions or comments in the DNA channel in Slack.